Hey, what's up, AfterBuzzers and a million little things fans? It is a perfect storm for a whirlwind of sacrifices, complicated, awkward moments, and some revelation. So let's get into episode 4. Break it down.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Woo!
Oh. I love that. You said break it down.
Let's break it down into this whirlwind of a storm. I don't know if it was perfect though, but hey, It was a lot of darkness, a lot of swinging about. Oh my God, it felt a lot of emotions in this one. A lot of twists and turns. Hey, what's up, AfterBuzz and a million little things fans? We're breaking down episode 4, A Perfect Storm. And my name is Yasmin Tamris, and I'm joined by my lovely super fan and co-host of A Million Little Things.
Yes, guys. I'm Jess Lucero. I'm back. We're doing it again. Ready to do this?
Ready to get all into this juiciness?
Exactly.
Wow. Well, we need to get into all these different themes of sacrifices where we saw Regina and Rome sacrificing a lot so that she can push back in order to free herself from the Andrew situation and the restaurant. Then we're getting into all these awkward, complicated moments between Eddie, Catherine, the baby, Delilah, all of that stuff. And then finally, revelations as we finally get to know who Eric is. So the whole thing, between Maggie, her mom, Eric, and Gary as always being the glue for everybody. We always, as always, have our special segment, hashtag little things, ABTV coming up, and some news, and then finally some predictions. So before we get into all of that, what were your overall thoughts of this episode,
I
Jess?
loved this episode because we've had a lot of predictions over the past couple of weeks, and we haven't really been right about too much now that I'm actually thinking about it. We were right about the whole PJ thing from what we've put together so far, but today's episode, we were trying to guess who Eric could possibly be, and him just having Maggie's brother's heart, I would not have guessed that. That definitely threw me for a little surprise right there. So I thought that was really good, and I also really liked how Catherine reacted throughout this entire episode. I thought that was really strong of her.
Exactly. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we definitely got that wrong with Eric.
Yeah.
But hey, come on, give us some credit because, I mean, the writers, they definitely know how to twist and turn everything. And I'm loving the themes that are coming up from this situation because it's like, you really get to kind of dissect sort of a motherly aspect in there. And so things that I even felt like, wow, okay, what does it take for a mother to have to protect their children when they don't know how that's going to translate later on in life? But here you have a moment to really realize, like, in reality, mothers will do things or say things or not say things in order to protect their child. So I like that theme that came out of this episode.
Yeah.
And Catherine's strength, I don't know how she's dealing with it so well. So I'm looking forward to get into that and seeing how that is going to evolve as the series goes on.
And I actually went ahead and wrote to a couple of the writers of the show. So if any of you are tuned in, make sure to comment in the live chat and let us know because we have so many questions for you. You all did such a great job. I wrote to DJ Nash, and then he tagged a couple of the other writers and directors, and I was like, I'm going to do the same because they did such a great job, especially in today's episode.
Honestly,
Loved
yes.
it.
Oh my God. Okay, well, let's get into our first theme of sacrifices.
Yes.
I mean, Rome and Regina. Rome obviously getting into commercials. That's something that we saw in the last episode that he's agreed upon. Still not, we haven't seen him get into that. I'm imagining that's going to happen in the next episode. But then Regina cutting back on choices of what foods to serve to her customers, and then just to be able to get Andrew off her back, to pay him off, and then be able to focus on the restaurant. However, going through those notions, then we can see how fixated she is, and then really pushing away Delilah in this situation. Why do you think Regina has been so in over her head and not been able to actually even talk to Delilah about it?
Yeah, that was interesting because I realized in this episode that I hadn't even thought about the fact that Delilah, this restaurant is Delilah's as well. She hasn't really shown any interest in it since the first episode when they realized that it was each of theirs, So it might be slight resentment that she hadn't really been getting much help from Delilah previously, but she just seemed kind of snappy overall. She didn't want to really listen to her sous chef, I'm assuming is what he was. I don't know. I don't know.
Patrick?
Yeah.
Wait, no, is it Patrick? Yeah.
Not Patrick.
No. Because I'm getting him confused with PJ,
PJ,
now.
yeah.
His sous chef, though.
Yeah.
Her sous chef who's been around with her since she was like, what? She knew him from her first restaurant. That's the story that she was telling when she was 16.
And she didn't really like talk to him too much here. And when she did, it was just like staring at him. When Delilah...
But he knew. He could read her.
Yeah. And he knew
good.
to leave her alone.
Yeah.
Which apparently other people need to learn. They need to do that as well, because it was just weird though, because she didn't want to talk to Delilah too much, but then I also wrote down that her and Rome seemed really close in this episode. Like they're continuing to grow closer and closer throughout this season. So I don't know what it is. I don't know why she's been acting the way she has been with her restaurant. Maybe it's just not growing as quickly as she'd like, but it seems to be doing a great job.
Wow. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's confusing to me as well, because there seems to be like when it was the grand opening, so many people came, there was great reviews, there was like an influencer or blogger that was meant to come that didn't show up, but like it was still doing well. But then it's like ever since it's been the focus of like Andrew creating that traction and trying to like be more controlling, that it looks like things are not going as well. So I almost feel like his sort of control has kind of not like imprinted in her mind, like, oh my god, it's not going well, but I also don't want him to be the one that's like making the decisions as to how this restaurant should be run. Right. So the worry there, and you're right. Like, I think as well why Delilah hasn't been as involved, or we think like we haven't been able to notice that she is a partner, is because of all the complications with the baby and having a baby and everything.
I noticed that this episode showed a lot of relationships that hadn't been shown throughout this season too much, as far as Eddie and Delilah, Eddie and his baby, then Catherine and Delilah. There were just a bunch of relationships that we hadn't seen in a while. So I did like that part about this episode a lot as well. But yeah, I want to figure out a little bit more as to why Catherine, or not Catherine, who were we just talking about, Regina, why she's acting in the way she is when it comes to her restaurant. Because outside of there, she seems to be doing completely fine. She's great with Rome. They're getting along really well. They didn't bring up the whole baby issue at all yet. And so they seem to be getting along really well, but I want to know what it is that's really bothering her, you know?
And I still want to see like how things evolve when it comes to the women's shelter and like everything that ties in with that. And also, you know what? Now that we're talking about the whole like restaurant thing that happened with the electricity going out, why didn't Andrew come? Where was Andrew? He didn't check in.
Yeah, what was that about?
I feel like he should have been there, like, with his persona of him trying to make sure, is this restaurant running correctly or not?
Yeah, he was all on top
Delilah,
of everything.
like, maybe because of what happened with Delilah last time, that she's not ready, and, like, he's just trying to back off because really and truly he might just want to be a part of this restaurant because of her now as well.
Oh, that could be it.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, that's a good thought. What if that's it?
Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, because he wasn't here at all. They didn't even like bring him up. Oh my gosh, I wonder if that is why.
Maybe. Well, we'll have to see when he comes back, wherever he is, right? Well, I like the fact that Delilah stood up to Regina and saying, look, I'm your partner too, and, you know, like, stop beating yourself up about this, because obviously, you know, this is just a night. So what I enjoyed about that moment is that you know, it's one of those things where a good friend will tell you straight up what they think, and then that makes you shift then in consciousness. Of course, because it's not like you may not listen to like somebody that you don't really know. It's like, who are you to judge? But somebody who knows you so well and that you are friends with, you work as well with together and everything, and have been through so much, and it's just like, it made her flip that switch, and then it just reminded her back of the core of her passion, why she's doing it, because it seemed like she was so in over her head of the business aspect of it.
Right.
And now she's remembering, okay, I need to focus on why I was doing this, and that's out of love to give food. And look how the entire operation just turned around.
Exactly. And I feel like that has to be great PR for them. The fact that it was pouring, they said, you know what, no electricity, but let's just do what we can for everyone that's walking in this area. Pretty much, I don't know exactly how they found all these people, because I thought no one wanted to go outside during the storm, but all of a sudden,
and it's Boston.
Free food. They're there. Yeah.
Rain is okay.
Yeah. So that was really cool of them to have. They just made everything in Regina's words and Maggie's favorite in Maggie's words.
I love that when she said that. She was like, everything. She's like, oh, everything's my favorite.
Yeah. I'm like, oh girl, retweet.
Oh, yes.
Me too. That's so accurate. You know what I mean? If anyone was like, if I was walking and it was pouring rain and I just saw that a restaurant was serving everything? I mean, let's go.
Oh my God,
there.
100%.
Right? Sign me up, guys.
Yeah, well, speaking of everything, we want to hear everything that you have to say, our viewers and listeners as well, because, this episode has been quite the whirlwind of a storm.
Oh, yeah.
And so far, but before we get into our next topic, Jess has a lovely message for all of you.
Oh, I do. Guys, we just want to say thank you so much for making us the ESPN of TV Talk. But in order for us to continue to grow, we're going to need a little bit of your help. Basically, if you are watching on YouTube, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. Especially if you're some of the writers of A Million Little Things, like I mentioned. We would love if you guys would give us some comments. Love that. Go ahead and leave us a comment down below. And if you're listening on the podcast app, make sure to give us 5 stars. We appreciate it, and we'll continue to bust out with all this good content.
Yes, and we want to just have a conversation with you, honestly.
Exactly.
Like, it's amazing how some of you pick up some of the stuff that we don't pick up on, or like your perspectives or revelations of things that are going to happen.
I love it. Every once in a while, we'll go back and watch some of our old episodes and look at the comments, and it'll be like the one thing that we missed, and everyone's like going off on it, and I love it though.
It's
I'm like, oh my God, yes, you're so right.
Yes. It just pulls it in so many different fascinating perspectives, and it's just incredible to see like how the writers can pull it off and how that makes us really think about a lot of the subjects that they represent. All right, let's get into our awkward, fascinating, complicated moments here.
Love that.
Finally, and this is the first time ever that we're seeing Catherine being more involved with the friendship groups.
Yeah.
Friendship groups. But like, I have to put like apostrophe friendship groups, because of course it's been so awkward that nobody knew how to approach Catherine, and Catherine needed her space and time. She's been away for a while. She finally meets baby Charlotte, as does Eddie, to look after her, and
Theo.
And Theo is the one who's obviously the one that made both of them come. And poor little thing is oblivious to the entire situation. We cannot expect somebody that's young to understand. So Catherine tells Eddie to stay, as they find out that Rome is the babysitter of the day. Would you have done that if you were in her position?
I feel like Catherine's doing a lot of things that I don't know if I would be able to do. She's being the bigger person overall. The fact that she wants to stay with Eddie, that's already huge. The fact that she's telling him to be a better father to Charlotte than he was with Theo, again, huge. She's very mature. That's the only way I can describe it. She, what Eddie did to her, what Eddie and I guess both Delilah did to her was very wrong, very bad. I don't know how she's able to even think straight at this point. I think she's really doing it for Theo more than anyone else. But I don't know if I would be able to tell Eddie, yeah, go babysit. That's just hard.
Honestly, when we were watching that, at that point, I was like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But then I also thought about it, and as the episode progressed, seeing that it is for Theo, and that's the result that we came to as well, where she says, I just couldn't let Theo see or understand like what's going on at all. And ultimately, I also think she's a mother in the end of the day as well. And that motherly instinct of like pulling a father away from a kid, I think she has that sort of nurturing, strong aspect within her that she allows for it. And I guess if I was in her position, maybe I think I would have done the same, because it's like, if you don't try and know, or like give that person the opportunity, and if you deprive themselves, the other person, of that family that they have created, then it's like, you know, by force, it's you're not going to feel good about it either way. I mean, either way, this isn't feeling good already. But I almost feel like this is sort of the more nobler route to go through, even though it's the more challenging one too.
Yeah, and were you shocked with that scene where Theo's sitting there playing the song for baby Charlotte, Eddie's there, Delilah's there, everyone's there, and Catherine's just sitting watching it all happen? That had to have been one of those big old tear-jerking moments of this episode, right?
That was one of those things where I just had to hold my breath and be like, oh my God, Catherine, just step away. Do not watch this anymore. It's like a not a horror movie, but like a movie
basically
that, you might be traumatized by and stay away.
Yeah.
And that's a comment that I wanted to make as well. Like, I just think it's so hard to stand by. I don't know how she's doing it. But kudos to her, seriously.
Yeah.
Lots of strength and courage there. Then I thought it was very interesting to watch the relationship between Eddie and Charlotte, just to see how how happy he was, and the way that he said, out of everything that has happened, I am happy that you came out of it.
Right.
What do you feel about that?
Well, that part, what was funny is this is the 4th episode of the season, and this is the first time we're really seeing them together. And so I thought that was strange. Obviously, this is his baby, but we haven't seen him be that fatherly figure to Charlotte too much yet. So, of course, that should be a blessing that Charlotte came from this. But I want him to be more of a fatherly figure, even though he's going through a very awkward situation right now. Obviously, he's trying to figure out how to balance everything. Like Catherine originally said, he should be there for Charlotte now that he knows what's right and what's wrong. And the way he wasn't there for Theo as much as he could have been, well, now he's got a chance to be a better father. And so I hope that he's able to identify that and learn from his mistakes.
Yeah.
It seems like he's starting to.
I think he is. To me, it seemed a little bit crazy how he did say that out of everything that's happened.
Right.
And a lot of the continuous, let's say, damage that is happening throughout, because this is not just affecting Catherine. This is going to affect Theo. This is going to affect Sophie and Danny eventually too, when it all comes out. And it's like the whole outcome of it. And then he's like, but I'm happy you came out. And and not against, like, of course, another being is something to be cherished and loved, but like the entire spectrum of it and the way that was said, I felt like, wow, okay. I don't know how you're going to continue through this or how this is all going to develop. But, one thing is that we're seeing how strong Catherine is trying to be out of all of it, and that everybody is gonna have to abide to being strong and being there for each other and together.
Yeah, and I hope that we can actually see that, because this was the first time, like I said, a lot of relationships were coming together in this episode. This was the first time that we saw Catherine with that group of friends. And like you said, I would like to be able to say that was her group of friends, but they haven't been acting like it at all this season.
It's so interesting because I also feel like nobody's really checked in on her throughout.
Yeah.
And that's bizarre to me, like I can understand from Delilah's side from feeling awkward to not have reached out, but like everybody else, nobody had. And I felt like, I think Gary could have, or Maggie, they're going through their own things, which we're going to get into too, but like everybody's always been there throughout for each other no matter what has been going on, but nobody's really been there for her. But yeah, granted, nobody knows how to approach the situation.
Yeah, they're all so awkward. And they even had the opportunity to approach her and check in on her when she was there with the group of friends, and Gary just sort of took their eyes away from Catherine and projected them onto himself, and maybe that was his way of helping the moment. It definitely made us laugh.
100%.
Yeah, it was great, but
I love Gary the glue.
Yeah, I would still like to see that group of friends check in on her, just make sure she's doing okay. Delilah, again, she had a great opportunity to check in on Catherine. I feel like she didn't really do too much checking in. It was almost more Catherine just telling her what's up, and then just being a great person again and saying, here, sign this. I helped you out.
Okay, so there was a couple of interesting moments there. One with the signage, which I'll get into in a minute. It was just that I felt as soon as Catherine walked into the restaurant, everybody was like obviously very shocked to see her
Yeah.
and like super happy, and Rome was like really awkward, like yeah, sure, you can sit down and stuff. And like, he was so cute. And then of course Gary, him making the joke, like there has to be a joker in the group, and of course that is Gary, as
I
we
love
know.
him.
Like he always brings people together. I love that about him. But one thing that I noticed was that Delilah kind of shied away. Of course, she's ashamed, but she didn't admit to the fact that she was ashamed. And when Catherine came up to her and actually gave this beautiful speech, and then was like, "And here, sign these papers to make sure that you can stay at home." Delilah didn't hug her, or did I miss that? I just didn't see like that sort of. She was appreciative, but it was such a moment like that short where I was like, really?
You're like, I would expect something more from that.
Like cry or something.
Right. You're like, I'm tearing up, and here you are, just like, thanks,
thank
bye,
you,
gotta
and
go.
grabbing the glasses going, yeah. Like,
That part was a little awkward. I agree. And I didn't notice it until you said something to me, but that's very weird for someone to go out of their way after they were so wronged by you, and you're just gonna say thank you and walk away.
just
Like,
walk away. I don't know. I didn't get that.
you would think that she would at least, you know, when things are kind of awkward with you and maybe a friend, a prior friend, whatever it is, and then you try and clear things up and like bring them into your friend group. You're like, oh my God, so how's it been? Whatever. Delilah didn't even do that. She could have done so many things, and it was just like she dropped the ball.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how that will develop, because that was just a little bit too brief and abrupt. And then
Yeah.
I mean, granted, maybe she still does have those like awkward feelings and tensions and things in her mind where she's like, okay, I'm not going to prolong this moment too much, so I'm just going to walk away. Like some people are like that, you know, they just don't want to warm up too
they're
quickly.
too
They're scared.
awkward.
Like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I didn't think Delilah would be like that. But
I know.
Hey.
You're like, you were
There's
ballsy
always
enough
a
to do it, but
Oh.
okay. You're not ballsy enough to say sorry and give her a hug. Okay.
But she did say, whatever you want, I'll do.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's see what happens. Just to finish up the whole like awkward, complicated moments, how funny was it when we saw Rome
Yes.
and Eddie in the shower?
I was waiting for this. Oh my gosh. And Sophie doing what Sophie does. She's like, let me snap a little photo of this so I can use this for payback one day. But that was so great. And did I miss how they came up with that?
I know, right? I mean, it was brilliant. It was about the baby having congestion and not knowing how to soothe the baby's congestion.
That makes more sense,
And then
actually, yeah.
ultimately, like both of the guys were panicking, which is also actually really hilarious to watch. But then
The ears and
the ears, yes. And then Eddie was like, actually, I know. And it finally dawned on
that
him
was smart.
because he was frustrated, not being able to soothe his baby. And then he's like, actually, now I know what to do. And also in this moment, I felt like that was a good moment for Rome to also see some of the things that go on when you have a baby.
Huge. I wrote that down. I feel like Rome is showing more and more dad characteristics throughout this season, and I'm just waiting.
Yeah, I know. It's just
Come
brewing.
on.
He's like sizzling himself up right there just
we
to
know
make that
what's coming.
happen. Yeah. Definitely practicing right there.
But he took it upon himself, and he went out there, and he is learning how to be a dad step by step. He's learning first with Danny, with Sophie, PJ, and now he's got baby Charlotte, which is exactly how his baby would come. Like, you know, it would be a little baby, and you have to learn from the ground up, whether it be changing diapers or clearing their congestion. And I just love the
Building
fact
a connection with the
Yeah.
baby. Yes.
he's doing such a great job.
Yeah.
I love him.
He's so
Rome
sweet.
and Gary are just, I love watching them.
Both of them.
Their
They're just
characters are amazing.
the glue of it all.
Yeah.
Wow. Touching upon then, let's say, nurturing children and Gary's involvement, the revelations of mommy here, Maggie's mommy, and
that
the
was
decision to open up as to who Eric is and
Yes.
how that all came about over breakfast, over bagels, as Gary says.
Right. What happened?
There's never going to be the right moment, though, to drop such a thing, right?
No. Dropping a bomb over bagels. That's what he said, right?
Yes, quite frankly.
Yeah. You know, I guess there isn't really a great opportunity for that to happen, for her to be able to tell her daughter. But you would think that she would do it sooner than she did. She mentioned that she had met him before, and then Maggie ran into them at the bar, and it's like she just wouldn't spit it out. Like, tell your daughter who this guy is, because you have us guessing. I know obviously you had Maggie guessing, thinking that you were like hooking up with this
so why did you
20,
bring your
30-year-old
boyfriend to this breakfast?
Yeah.
Oh. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, let me tell you. But I thought that was just kind of weird overall. Like, you cannot tell someone how to cope. Of course not. But the fact that she is trying so hard to have this relationship with someone that she does not know this guy. He has the same heart as her son, the same physical heart. That, like, yes. But do you find it weird that she's trying so hard to have this relationship with him?
I mean, when we saw at the end of it was all like her not being able to actually deal with the loss of her son because she had made that decision to take his heart and put it into somebody else. It's like she definitely wants to keep him alive in some form, and that connection right there. I definitely think it's inappropriate or not the best decision for her to have like chosen him over her husband, and that's why Eugene was like, well, it's me or him, and she chose him. That was a little bit of a strange moment right there. But I want to rewind a little bit back as to the moment in time in which she did choose for her son's like an organ transplant and not, you know, like he was still alive but obviously struggling. I honestly don't know in her position what I would have done. It is such a panicful moment, you know, where you have to make such a life-changing choice.
Right.
And, you know, I almost think if that is the choice of having to like let your son go and being able to provide somebody in need with a formal life, yes, of course she's a mother. In the end of the day, she's going to be like pro-life in that sense to you know, be able to help, because what else can she do for her son?
I think it almost would have made sense to tell Maggie what happened right away. I don't think I think the reason Maggie reacted like that was more so because her mom had been lying to her for all this time, and she continues to either lie to her or just not tell the full truth. And I think that Maggie could have handled hearing that her mom chose to give someone another life when her brother was not going to make it. He didn't make it much longer than for him to see his mom, and that was it. So if her mom had a chance to help someone else live, you know, Maggie can't be mad at her for that.
And but it's strange because that theme of protection came up, right?
Yeah.
And like how, you know, you protect, and this also kind of goes with Catherine, like protecting Theo and, you know, going back to the family and all that stuff. But like, why the mother chose to not tell her husband nor Maggie about any of this. I don't know what she was trying to protect here. I really do question that, because people were saying, you know, as a mother, you make decisions to share things versus to not share things to protect your children and family. But look at the results of it.
Yeah.
So I agree with you in that sense. She should have probably told them both immediately, because Maggie reacted like, for 6 years I'd been mourning for my brother who had died in a different sense. Now I feel like he's dead all over again, because she knows the true circumstances.
She has to relive it. It's very true. The way Maggie, I mean, you can never tell someone how to react when it comes to something like this. But I think the way Maggie did react is very valid. Like I said, she shouldn't have been lied to for all those years. That is traumatizing to have to go through losing your brother once again when you are basically reliving that exact moment when your mom is like, no, that's actually not the way it happened. This is what happened. Let me take you back through it. But I liked that Maggie's mom did fly back so that she could be with her husband, but she still didn't tell Maggie. And I just don't understand what's going. Like, she isn't telling Maggie everything, and I don't. Is it just because she wasn't as close with Maggie since Maggie's been younger? Apparently, she's closer with Chad, but
I don't know.
It's weird.
Yeah, and also like I understand why people are asking. Or Maggie's asking, like, why now? Why is this coming out now, 6 years later? It's a long time to have, like, really been able to brew over that and then finally come out with it. Okay, granted, Eugene, her husband, had found the emails, and that set off the fact that they were going to separate. So then that set her mom off, Patricia, to just go over to Maggie and make sure she's okay, but also at the same time to see Eric, who had apparently shown her so much solace and given her happiness in some form.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre thing, but
It's very weird because when you think about the way you act when you're around people that you don't fully know the way you know your family, you might kind of be walking on eggshells where you're a little nicer with them and, you know, you go out of your way to say, how are you, whatever. When you're with your family, you're just yourself, you know?
yeah.
So I feel like maybe Eric is just treating her with so much respect, but that's not her family. I mean, maybe she almost wants her family to grow and expand to welcome Eric in, which could totally make sense. She gave this guy a life. Like, she gave him his second life, I guess, so to speak. And so I understand him wanting to know her wanting to know him, but I just think that she needs to clear that up with her actual family.
Yeah, and just like, it's almost like she wants a son, like she still wants her son.
Yeah.
And so she's living through that narrative. And it's just bizarre
not
to
gonna
me
happen.
how she's like, I don't know. Do you also agree with the fact that she is choosing him, let's say Chad, because this is what Maggie's like, you always favorited Chad over me, and you're doing it all over again because when she was going through chemo and hadn't woken up yet, Patricia went to see Eric first before Maggie. So do you also agree with that?
I think that was a huge moment right there, and I'm really glad that Maggie brought that up to her mom because her mom should have been there for her. Eric wasn't going through anything at that point. She was just going to meet him, correct?
Yeah.
That's the way I took it. He wasn't going through anything. She just was going to meet him. But Maggie was literally going through chemo. She had cancer, and you're not going to be there for your daughter. You're going to make sure to fly into town so that you could see not only her, but also Eric.
And first Eric,
yeah.
I wonder though if there was a conversation of like her speaking to Eric and being like, I think you should come with me to the hospital and meet Maggie, but that would have been a little bit too far beyond.
That's weird too, though. You know, it's like your first time meeting her shouldn't be when she's sitting there in chemo. It should be...
Never, yeah. It should actually be, if anything, it should have been at the same time. I think Patricia could have been like, at some point after Maggie had woken up, said to her, listen, I'm here. I'm so happy you made it through. You've woken up. But let's talk about something. And there's a person that I'd like us both to meet.
Yeah. And then we both have, and then we have Gary, who I think of as Confucius because he's so freaking smart. And the way he approached Maggie's mom, I thought was so insightful. I didn't realize when I first began watching this show a while back that Gary was going to be the one that was filled with so much knowledge. He just sort of seemed like the character thrown in there to kind of lighten the mood here and there and make you laugh. But now he is helping everyone out with every battle that they're going through, whether it be Danny with his issues at school, but now he has Maggie's mom, his elder in a way, and he's supposed to respect her. That's kind of what you're taught in this day and age. But he's sitting there telling her the truth, you know? Mm-hmm. He's not taking a step back and sort of I don't even know exactly how to say it, but he's being very straight up with her.
Yeah, I think Gary has, given what he's been through, like that we're finding out more and more that he has also this past in which he's been left, and it's like he's taking on sort of a fatherly role for so many people.
Yeah,
and
very true.
Also, though, learning about the dynamics of the complications that go in hand of being a mother, because he's been exposed to Patricia's side, he's been exposed to Catherine's side, and then obviously Delilah, but like he's even said to Catherine, you know, at least you came back.
Right.
And you can see sort of his pain, even though he tries to cover it up with jokes.
Yeah.
But that's why with his pain comes in hand with his character of trying to keep everybody together, because he doesn't want somebody to walk away from it.
Exactly. He doesn't want to lose someone in the way that he lost John, which he kind of came to fruition with in an earlier episode. I thought he did a great job of realizing that with himself and now he just continues to be a really great guy. He's so insightful with everyone.
Superman, like Superman. And
Yeah,
like told
we love
her,
him.
Patricia, go back and you call your husband and you mend that bridge. And I think that's so correct of him
And she
because
did
that
it.
ultimately is gonna also, I feel Maggie will be pleased with that.
Oh yeah, definitely. What did you think about her mom pointing out the similarities between Maggie and Eric when she said something about them both playing instruments? Did you think that was weird? She's like
Yeah,
trying too hard.
So it's a little bit. I don't know, but I'm also like questionable about Eric. Him, you know, we now get more of an insight as to Eric's pain as well, what he's been through, but then also getting close to Maggie. It's like, I don't know how I feel about that, of him actually trying to be in their life too. Like you can see he's actually trying to be in their life now too.
Yeah, and Gary didn't like that either. You could tell he's like, Maggie, she doesn't want to talk, at least not to me.
Or anybody, but then in the end it's actually Eric.
It's Eric. She wants to talk to Eric, and that's just weird to me. I mean, not weird because maybe now that she knows that he has her brother's heart, she's kind of seeing it in the same way that her mom sees it.
But then she's still very frustrated with her mom.
Yeah.
You know, she really lashed out at her and didn't appreciate the choices that her mom had made. Which in the end, I'm like, I don't know if I can agree with Maggie if, you know, her mother is still choosing him over her. Like, I think it's just so complicated. It really is. And I don't know. I don't know if the mother will have gotten on that plane. I hope not. I almost feel like she should just come back and still like try and work on the relationship with Maggie before she goes back home.
I think so
or like
too.
try to bring Eugene out as well, like so that they all can be together as a family and discuss this.
Yeah. Before we go into this anymore, I want to read one of the viewers actually wrote, and I'm so sorry I can't read your name because it's in another language, but they said Delilah is so selfish and doesn't have the decency to tell her kids the truth about Charlie. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think, first off, they're very young, so I don't know if I would necessarily call that part selfish. And it's hard. That's a very hard subject to talk about. And I don't know if she is wanting to do that when they're much older, because I think that would be bad as well. But I understand her wanting to wait until she figures out what's going on between her and Eddie for sure.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to ruin any more relationships. But that's something that's very difficult for anyone to try and tell their family, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the kids, I agree. I agree with you, our commenter, who has a complicated name, that there's some selfishness in there, but at the same time, the selfishness comes from protecting the children to not go crazy at that age, because it could literally affect them in so many different directions, thinking that my mother has been with somebody else, not with my father, because you're led to believe, you know, all is fine and dandy with your parents until it's not fine. And clearly the kids know that it hasn't been fine. Clearly they know that because the father passed away under those circumstances as he did. But I think it would be too much for them to handle, then to know another layer to this, and then they would start blaming the mother for the father's death, when really and truly we still don't even know as the viewers
of which
truth and circumstances of leading to his death, because we didn't get any insight as to PJ or Barbara in this episode. So we still have to find out that whole dynamic over that. Well, let's get into some news.
News time, guys, because we are all over the place. I love it.
Still like question marks. So what are some factual things going on here with the characters?
So we got some factual things, but basically, you guys, one of our favorite characters is Rome, and you know we have Halloween season approaching, but much more important than that, we have Christmas season approaching.
Right after Thanksgiving. There's too many holidays, but hey, gotta love it.
Exactly. So those of you tuning in on YouTube, you guys can see this photo that we're pulling up of Romney, who plays Rome. Basically, Netflix came out with a few of their holiday shows that they're going to be busting out with, I guess. And one is called Holiday Rush. It's going to come out on November 28th. And basically, Romney is going to play a New York DJ.
What? From commercial director to DJ.
Is that wild, or is that just
me? I can totally see that.
Can you?
Can you? not?
I feel like that is so funny. That's just like, that's interesting. Here he is wanting to be a father in this show, and now in this show he's like, I want to be a DJ. Nah, forget that. I love it. Whatever.
I can see that.
Do
Cool
whatever you want,
down.
man. And then next up, we got some more news for you coming from DJ Nash, the creator of A Million Little Things. Basically, he was asked if this whole concept came from a true story, and while it wasn't based on, you know, these 8 friends that lost a specific friend, that anything like that, he basically said that it was inspired by his experience with losing a friend in a very similar way. It mirrors how he realized the importance of friendships. While he realized it a little too late, it did end up teaching him a couple of things later on. He ran into a friend sort of walking down the street, and they were like, they hadn't seen each other in a while, so he says, you know what, let's go to lunch. So they plan on going to lunch not too long after that, and then the friend ends up killing himself. So it was basically in that moment that he sort of put this show idea all together, and you know, you realize life is too short. Everything happens for a reason.
And
you got to act on what you say.
Unexpected turn right
Yeah.
there. Wow. Okay. Very powerful. And now, you know, it just makes me appreciate the series so much more because of all the depth and themes that are rising from it. And I'm like so curious to see as to how DJ Nash sees everything. And, you know, I can't imagine the emotions he must have gone through when that happened with his friend. And then, but look what he's creating in order to put out messages out there as to the realities of a lot of the people that might go through that we can see in this series, and that obviously incited DJ Nash to be able to create this. So
Right. It's crazy the things that people end up going through. The fact that they ran into each other, who knows how far after they had seen each other, years before that or whatever it may have been. And then let's go to lunch, and then you never know.
You gotta check in on each other. We always learn this in this series.
Exactly.
Check in on each other
Check
and
in
your
on Catherine.
great friends. Yes, check
Speaking
in on
of which.
Catherine. Well, speaking of things that we always learn from the series, what is from our special segment here your hashtag little things ABTV?
My hashtag little things. Little things. You see how that came out?
She's learning that British
Oh my God.
accent.
It's happening.
It's happening. Now I gotta put
That
my
was great.
American on.
Yeah. So my takeaway from this episode is, you know, like the title of this episode, A Perfect Storm. I said, when it rains, it pours. And I felt like this episode had a lot that happened. It had Gary being Confucius, as we say, and we have Catherine just being so insanely mature. Maggie finally realizing who Eric is. There was just a lot that went down in today's episode. It was great.
Was a shitstorm.
I love
Not the perfect storm. I don't know why. What was so
not a
perfect
perfect
about
storm.
All right, actually, okay, it was a full-on shitstorm. But what was a perfect storm, because this is my hashtag little things ABTV, is that when all things go wrong, shift your perspective.
Yeah.
And watch how things will come full circle and actually turn right if you are willing to just go back to the core of your passion and your intention. And this is based upon Regina, where she was like looking at everything from the wrong perspective, from like the shit pile that was going on, and then look what kind of perfection was delivered to her when she purely asked, what?
Yeah.
And
Look at what she
restaurant
created.
turned around.
Look
So,
at
you
that
know,
great
just shift
PR.
your perspective and give, and you'll receive.
Exactly. Just
that's
in time
exactly
for
what
the
happened,
holidays.
right?
They're coming up on us now.
Well, Halloween's coming soon.
I always just skip right past that. Maybe I need to work on that. Speaking of which, I'm excited for the Halloween episode that's going to be coming up. I hope,
in a couple
think,
of, in next
2
week, couple of weeks. Yes.
something like that.
Yes. Well,
What predictions
let's
do you
see what
have?
happens. So we have coming up in our predictions. I'm thinking, huh.
AfterBuzz TV.
Have a little moment. Transport me into another realm, because I was literally a little bit lost just now in the shitstorm.
Do you want me to start?
Wait, hold on. Okay. I think Maggie and Eric
Yes.
are going to become very close
Yes.
So close to the point that feelings may arise.
Yes.
Not brotherly love or anything like that. It's actually going to be other kind of feelings.
Oh no! Yes. Yep.
Definitely think looking at like Rome and Regina, things are going to shift there. I think they're not going to have a baby yet. That's for sure. That baby talk is off.
We're trying over here. Trying to speak it into existence.
They're both going to be working very, very hard, as from what I see. Catherine, we saw a little prelude there. So
yeah, what's going on with that? Is
she might
gonna
have a dubious
move?
plan. Yeah, something's going on there.
Okay, but that's sketch to me. If Catherine is looking to move to Austin, Texas, and
For what reasons as
yet
well? Who's
she's
there?
exactly, and yet she's over here saying, "Eddie, be a great father to your newborn baby," but then if she wants to take him away, he can't
Unless
do
she
that.
has like a masterful plan in this, and when she's like,
Yeah, we
we're
need
doing
to
this,
figure
and
that
then
out.
he's gonna like pull back, and that's like a test to see how much he's willing to commit.
Yep, but I don't like that, especially because she just had Delilah to now keep her home. So Delilah obviously is going to stay there. Eddie would have to move with Catherine if she decides that's what she wants to do, because
Right.
she wants to stay with him. And
It's going back to the shitstorm. Jess, what are your predictions?
well, I wrote down those exact two things. I said Maggie and Eric, and I hope to God that they don't like date or anything like that, because I love Maggie and Gary so
Gary.
much. But this whole Maggie and Eric thing, it seems to be happening the way she wants to talk to him about these certain things. Oh God, that's it's funny
I see
because
it
you and I
happening.
are saying that, that's not your brother, but in this case, then we're like, you know what? No, it is like your brother.
Your heart-
So we
your
are
brother's
being
heart
a
is
little
in
bit
there. But then ultimately, our predictions have always been so incorrect.
right. Who knows?
Who knows? We want to hear what you have. What kind
Yeah,
of
guys.
predictions you have.
Leave some
because-
comments.
Yeah, this is just so surprised
Got a
every single
cliffhanger
week.
going.
Yeah. Any other predictions or?
No, that's all I got.
It's well,
This is so
before
tough.
we shoot off, then where can everybody find you on social media?
You guys can find me at Jess Lucero live on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm now on Reddit as well.
Oh yeah, search her on Reddit, and she'll be watching all your comments. Like she reports to me, and we're just
I do.
chit-chatting about it.
Better watch yourselves.
Well, you can find me at Yasmin Tanris on all social media as well, and we'll be back again next week.
I can't wait.
Whoa,
I am
what's
so
gonna
excited for next
happen?
week.
So stay tuned. Leave us some comments. Let us know your thoughts and also what's gonna happen. Who knows, right? We'll be looking forward to chatting with you.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.